The night sky over Varela 9 was beautiful once. The twin moons had always shone gently on the silver lakes, and the air carried the songs of the wind through crystal trees. The people of this world, called the Virelons, lived peacefully for generations. They were small, gentle creatures, soft-skinned, long-limbed, and curious. They studied the stars, built gardens in the sky, and believed that all life should live in harmony. But peace never lasts forever. From the dark edge of space came a fleet of ships unlike any they had ever seen. Jagged, metallic, alive with red light, the Korath had arrived. They were a warrior species that believed only in domination. To them, peace was weakness, and weakness was meant to be conquered. In one night, the skies of Varela 9 turned from silver to red. The Korath bombed cities from orbit, targeting power plants and research towers. The crystal forests were burned to ash. The Virelans had no weapons, only scientific drones and survey crafts. Their airships fell like rain. Thousands were captured, their homes destroyed. In the capital city of Neretha, a young scientist named Eliara Ven ran through smoke and fire to reach the central communications tower. Around her, the ground trembled as explosions shattered the once peaceful streets. She could hear the cries of her people over the sound of engines and plasma fire. "Eliara," shouted her colleague Taryn, struggling to carry a damaged transmitter. "The signal tower's half destroyed. It might not work." "We have to try," she said, her voice shaking but steady. "Someone out there must hear us. Someone must come." Together they climbed through the broken hall, past fallen beams and shattered glass. The once bright tower was now a skeleton of twisted metal. The communications array, their link to the stars, was barely holding together. Taryn connected the final power cell. Sparks flew. The lights flickered weakly. Eliara leaned over the console and began typing fast. Her fingers trembled, but she didn't stop. "This is Varela 9 of the Virelon Collective," she spoke into the comms. "We are under attack. We are scientists, not soldiers, please. If anyone can hear us, help us." Static answered her. She repeated the message again and again, even as the floor shook beneath her. Finally, the transmitter gave a faint pulse, then a long, soft tone. The signal was out. It was weak, but it was alive. "Is it working?" Taryn asked, coughing through smoke. "Yes," she whispered. "The stars will carry it." Then the ceiling cracked open as a Korath drop pod hit nearby. The shockwave knocked them both to the ground. Darkness swallowed the room. The signal drifted into space, carrying their desperate plea across thousands of light years. Far away, in the quiet reaches of the Sol system, the universe seemed still. Humanity had changed much since the old days of Earth wars. They had spread to the stars, but they were still called what the galaxy feared most: Deathworlders. The name came from Earth itself, a planet that trained its people to survive every challenge: storms, volcanoes, predators, and their own mistakes. Humanity was born in chaos, raised in danger, and made stronger by it. On the edge of Neptune's orbit floated Outpost Helios, a long-forgotten listening station once used for deep space research. Its crew was small, barely a dozen engineers and technicians who mostly maintained old sensors. It was a quiet night shift. When the alarm went off, Lieutenant Sarah Hale nearly dropped her cup of coffee when the console beeped with an incoming signal. That's not local," she murmured. The pattern was strange, weak, fragmented, repeating at uneven intervals. She activated the filters, running it through old Earth translation software. The screen blinked, showing faint alien words. Her heart began to race. "Commander?" she called over the intercom. "You need to see this." Commander Ilara Kane, a tall woman with gray eyes and a calm presence, stepped into the room. "Report," Sarah replayed the message. The voice that came through was faint, almost drowned in static. "This is Varela 9. Under attack. Scientists, not soldiers. Please, anyone, help us." Silence filled the station. Ilara frowned. "Origin?" "Unknown species," Sarah replied, tapping a few keys. "Coordinates traced to the outer rim near Korath space." That word made everyone pause. The Korath were infamous even in human records. Raiders, slavers, destroyers of worlds. They didn't ask, they took. Most civilizations avoided them. "Send it to Central Command," Ilara ordered. Sarah nodded. "Already transmitting." As the data sent, Ilara walked to the observation window. Beyond it, the blue glow of Neptune shimmered like a frozen ocean. "They called for help," she said quietly. "And no one else will answer. Sarah glanced at her. You don't really think, Ilara turned back. You remember Mars Colony Year 42? When the reactor failed and the Alliance ignored us? Sarah nodded. Everyone did. Humanity had once begged for help from alien allies, and no one came. They had survived alone, rebuilding with their own hands. That memory ran deep. Ilara took a deep breath. Prepare a full data report. I'm forwarding this to Luna Base myself. 2 days later, the message reached the United Human Fleet headquarters on Luna. The Council reviewed it in silence. The Admiralty debated whether to intervene. Some argued it wasn't their business. Others said it was too dangerous. But the people of Earth were watching. The message had already leaked through the network. Millions had heard the broken plea of the virulence. Children made drawings of strange blue creatures and wrote messages like, "We'll come for you." And soon, the decision was made. Humanity would answer. The UHS Resolute, an old warship from the frontier days, was reactivated. Engineers worked day and night to refit it with new engines and supplies. Volunteers flooded in from across the colonies, soldiers, medics, pilots, and civilians alike. They didn't go for glory. They went because they remembered what it was like to be alone. Back on Virella 9, Eliara woke up among ruins. The comms tower had collapsed. The air was full of smoke and dust. Her arm was bruised, her clothes torn. Around her, the city was silent except for the distant roar of engines. She didn't know if anyone had heard her message. She didn't know if help would ever come. She only knew one thing. She had to believe someone was listening. She climbed out of the rubble and looked up at the sky. Even through the smoke, the stars still shone faintly, tiny points of light across the endless dark. "Please," she whispered. "Let there be someone out there." And far, far away in a human shipyard orbiting the moon, engines roared to life. The Deathworlders had heard the call, and they were coming. The hangars of Luna Base had not seen this much noise in years. Engines roared, cranes moved like metal giants, and sparks flew as engineers worked day and night. The UHS Resolute, once a forgotten warship from the old frontier wars, stood tall again. Its steel hull bore scars from past battles, but now it gleamed under the lights like a sleeping beast awakening. Commander Ilara Kane walked along the catwalk above the hangar floor, her hands behind her back. The scent of fuel and hot metal filled the air. Below her, hundreds of workers hurried, technicians tightening bolts, welders sealing armor plates, loaders moving supplies. She had seen many missions, but this one felt different. It wasn't about defense or expansion. It was about hope. Captain Jared Holt, her second in command, joined her on the platform. He was younger, his uniform still new, his face serious. "The Council's still debating," he said. "They think it's too dangerous to send a single ship into Korath territory." Ilara's gray eyes didn't move from the Resolute. "They always think it's too dangerous until someone does it first." Jared sighed. "You really believe this mission is worth the risk?" Ilara turned to face him. "I believe someone out there called for help, and we are the only ones willing to answer. That's enough for me." Across the hangar, a group of volunteers stood in line, soldiers, medics, engineers, and civilians who had come from different worlds of the United Human Systems. Some were veterans of Mars and Titan. Others had never left Earth before. Among them was Corporal Aidan Ross, a ground trooper with a reputation for being reckless but brave. He leaned on a supply crate talking to Dr. Mara Chen, a field medic preparing medical packs. "You ever seen a Korath?" Aidan asked. Mara shook her head. "Only in training hollows. They look terrifying." Aidan smiled faintly. "Everything looks terrifying until it bleeds." Mara frowned. "You think this is going to be like the Frontier Wars?" He looked at her, his tone softening. "No, this time we're not fighting for land or minerals. We're fighting so someone else can keep their world." In the command center, Ilara studied the holographic map of the outer rim. It was dotted with red marks, Korath systems, and one small blinking blue dot, Virella 9. Her operations officer, Lieutenant Sarah Hale, entered with a report. "Ma'am, final engine calibration is complete. The Resolute will be space-ready within 36 hours. Ilara nodded. "Good. And the crew manifest?" 238 confirmed volunteers, Sarah replied. "Mostly veterans, but we also have scientists, engineers, even farmers." "Farmers?" Ilara raised an eyebrow. Sarah smiled slightly. They said if we're helping rebuild a planet, someone has to know how to plant something. Alara couldn't help but chuckle. Humanity, she thought, always brought more than weapons to war. They brought life. That night, as the shipyard lights dimmed, Alara walked the outer deck alone. Through the glass dome, Earth hung in the distance, a blue and green jewel against the black sea of space. She remembered the stories her grandmother told her about the old Earth wars, how humans once destroyed each other, then rebuilt stronger. We learned to survive because we had to, her grandmother had said. And now we survive because we choose to. A voice interrupted her thoughts. You still awake, Commander? It was Chief Engineer Thomas Vance, an older man with grease-stained hands and kind eyes. He carried a small tablet full of ship diagnostics. Alara nodded. Just thinking, he smiled. That's dangerous. Thinking leads to doing, she smirked. You know me too well. He stepped beside her, looking at the stars. You really think we can make a difference out there? Yes, she said quietly. Because no one else will. At dawn, the Resolute was ready. Its massive thrusters glowed blue, its hull reinforced, its systems humming with power. The crew boarded with determined faces. There were no cheers or parades, only silent resolve. In the control room, Alara took her seat in the captain's chair. The lights dimmed as the launch countdown began. Status report, she ordered. Engines online. Navigation locked. Weapons ready. All crew accounted for, Sarah replied crisply. Jared gave her a nod. We're go for launch. Alara looked around the bridge. Faces young and old watched her, waiting for the order. She pressed the comm button. This is Commander Kane. Our mission is simple. We answer a call for help from those who cannot fight back. We don't know what waits for us out there. But remember, Earth was once a place no one believed could give life, and yet it made us. We are the children of a death world, and we bring life where others bring destruction. Let's show the stars who we are, the engines roared. The Resolute lifted from the dock, breaking away from the moon's gravity. Outside, debris drifted silently as the great ship turned toward the stars, and then, with a brilliant flash, it entered faster than light drive. Days passed as the Resolute traveled through the void lanes. Guided by ancient human navigation charts, the crew trained, repaired, and waited. Some played cards in the mess hall. Others stared at the stars through the viewing windows. Aiden Ross spent most of his time in the training room, sparring with fellow soldiers. You know what they say about Deathworlders? One joked. We don't fight because we're brave. We fight because everything else already tried to kill us. Laughter filled the room, breaking the tension. Dr. Mara Chen worked long hours organizing medical kits. She had never been on a combat mission before, but she felt proud to serve. In her spare moments, she recorded small video messages for her family back on Earth. She didn't say goodbye. She only said, "We're going to help someone who needs us." Meanwhile, in the strategy chamber, Alara studied enemy reports. The Korath had expanded fast, crushing weaker civilizations and enslaving survivors. No one stood against them, until now. Sarah entered with an update. Ma'am, long-range scans show increased Korath patrols near Varela 9. How many ships? At least 12 warships, maybe more. Jared frowned. That's suicide for a single cruiser. Alara stared at the glowing red icons on the hologram. Then we'll make them believe more are coming. She zoomed in on the map. Prepare drone decoys. We'll scatter false signals to look like a full fleet. If we can draw their attention, maybe we can get to the surface. Sarah nodded. Yes, Commander. Back on Varela 9, the world was dying slowly. The Korath patrols swept across burned cities. The few surviving Virelans hid in tunnels and caves, whispering stories of stars and hope. Eliara Venn, the scientist who sent the message, was among them. Her clothes were torn, her face covered in dust. Every day she checked the broken transmitter for a reply. It remained silent, but still she hoped. They heard us, she whispered to herself. They must have. One night she stood outside the cave and looked up at the sky. The moons were half shattered, smoke drifting across the horizon. Please, she said softly, let someone be coming. And far away in the dark ocean of space, a silver light streaked across the stars. The Resolute, faster than anything the Korath had ever seen, heading straight toward Varela 9. Inside the ship, alarms beeped as they neared their destination. Entering Korath territory, Sarah reported. Alara stood tall. Signal silence. No transmissions. We go dark from here, the crew fell quiet. The stars outside changed, darker, colder. Then through the viewport they saw it, the distant blue glow of a dying world. Fires burned on its surface, tiny lines of light marking destruction below. Ilara's jaw tightened. "Virella 9," she said. "Prepare for descent." The ship moved silently through the void, a single vessel daring to cross enemy space for the sake of strangers. And somewhere deep in her heart, Ilara knew this was not just a rescue mission. It was the beginning of something greater. The Deathworlders were coming, and the galaxy would never forget it. The stars around Virella 9 shimmered faintly as the UHS Resolute dropped out of faster-than-light travel. For a moment, the bridge was filled with silence. Everyone stared at the main screen. The sight before them was heartbreaking. The once beautiful blue world was now covered in red scars. Great clouds of smoke spiraled into space, glowing orange from burning cities below. Lightning flashed across the atmosphere where storms formed from the rising heat. Lieutenant Sarah Hale whispered, "It's worse than we thought." Commander Ilara Kane stood at the center of the bridge, her eyes calm but cold. "We expected this," she said softly. "Now we fix it." "Korath ships detected," reported Captain Jared Holt. "A full fleet, 12 warships and several patrols in low orbit." Ilara studied the tactical screen. "Do they see us?" "Not yet," Jared replied. "We came in under sensor shadow." Ilara nodded. "Good, let's keep it that way." The ship's lights dimmed as stealth protocols activated. Every human on board felt the tension rise. Somewhere out there, an entire enemy fleet waited. In the command center, holographic maps projected Korath positions across the planet. The Virilan capital, once shining with crystal towers, was now a field of ruin. Ilara looked at it and whispered, "How many survivors?" Sarah scanned the readings. "Thermal signatures, maybe a few thousand hiding underground." Jared frowned. "Against an army of Korath? That's nothing." Ilara turned to him, her voice steady. "Then we'll make sure every one of them lives." Down in the hangar, Corporal Aiden Ross and his team of Marines checked their equipment. Armor suits gleamed under red lights and rifles hummed with power. The soldiers moved with quiet focus, the kind of silence that comes before something dangerous. Dr. Mara Chen walked among them, handing out med patches and field stimulants. "You know," she said with a nervous smile, "we could still turn the ship around." Aiden grinned. "And miss the fun?" "Not a chance." She shook her head. "You're crazy." He fastened his helmet. "That's what they call bravery where I'm from." Back on the bridge, alarms blared. "Korath ships changing formation," Sarah announced. "They've spotted something, maybe one of our decoy drones." Ilara smirked. "Perfect. Let's give them more to chase." She activated the holographic console. "Deploy all decoys. Make them think an entire fleet's jumping in." Dozens of small, fast drones launched from the Resolute's bays, scattering in every direction. Their signal signatures mimicked human battleships. Within minutes, Korath scanners lit up with false readings. The Korath fleet turned to intercept. Jared watched the radar. "They're moving away from the planet." "They took the bait." "Good," Ilara said. "Now it's our turn." The Resolute dived toward Virella's upper atmosphere. The hull trembled as flames danced across its shields. On board, everyone braced for turbulence. "Atmosphere entry confirmed," Sarah reported. "Landing coordinates locked." The view outside turned into swirling orange clouds and flashes of lightning. The ship roared through the sky like a falling comet. Then the clouds broke and they saw the surface. Virella 9 was a world on fire. Cratered cities stretched as far as the eye could see. Huge Korath ships floated over the ruins, dropping drones and patrol squads. "Prepare drop pods," Ilara ordered. "Marines to launch deck." Aiden and his team rushed into the pods, strapping themselves in. The doors sealed with a heavy thud. Through the narrow windows they could see the burning horizon. "Pods ready," came the call through comms. "Launch," Ilara said. The pods shot out like bullets, blazing through the storm toward the ground. The Marines inside shook violently as fire streaked across their viewports. "5 seconds to impact," shouted Aiden. "Hold tight." Then impact. The pods smashed into the ground, sending waves of dust and smoke into the air. The doors burst open and human soldiers charged out. The battle for Virella 9 had begun. The first wave of Marines landed near the ruins of Neretha, the capital city. They found the streets littered with debris, broken vehicles, and collapsed buildings. Smoke covered the sky and strange alien shadows moved through the fog. Aiden raised his rifle. Movement ahead. Red lights flashed, Korath patrols. Their tall armored figures marched in lines, their weapons glowing with cold energy. The humans didn't wait. Fire. Blue and white beams cut through the darkness as the Deathworlders opened fire. Explosions echoed between the ruins. The Korath tried to counterattack, but the humans were fast, ducking behind walls, throwing flares, coordinating with perfect precision. Aiden's squad moved like lightning. They weren't stronger than the Korath, but they were smarter, faster, and far more unpredictable. Within minutes, the patrol was gone. Mara Chen rushed to tend to the wounded. "You okay?" she asked a soldier clutching his arm. "Just a scratch," he said with a grin. "Told you humans are hard to break." High above the battlefield, the Resolute stayed in low orbit, providing cover. Plasma cannons targeted enemy dropships and fired precise blasts, clearing paths for the ground teams. Jared monitored the sensors. "More Korath ships incoming from the north," Ilara pointed at the tactical map. "Redirect energy to forward shields. Bring main guns online." The ship trembled as power surged through its weapons. Massive beams of light shot through the clouds, striking enemy vessels. 2 Korath ships exploded instantly. A third broke apart and fell toward the surface in flames. "Direct hits," Jared shouted. Ilara's voice remained calm. "Maintain fire. Protect the civilians at all costs." In the ruins below, Aiden's squad pushed deeper into the city. They followed faint signals from underground. Virellan survivors. They found a hidden entrance beneath a broken statue. Aiden knocked twice on the metal door. "This is the United Human Systems," he said. "We're here to help." A pause. Then the door opened slightly, revealing a pair of large, frightened eyes. It was Illyra Venn, the scientist who had sent the distress signal. She stared in disbelief. You came," Aiden smiled. "Told you someone would hear." Inside the shelter, hundreds of Virellans huddled together. Children, elders, scientists, all weak and afraid. When they saw the humans, some gasped, some cried. They had never seen Deathworlders before, only heard stories of their strength and danger. Ilyara looked at Aiden's team. "The Korath will return soon. You should leave." Aiden shook his head. "We didn't come this far to run." Outside, the thunder of engines grew louder. More Korath dropships descended from the clouds, releasing troops by the hundreds. Aiden activated his comm. "Commander, we've got heavy contact incoming." Ilara's voice came through clearly. "Hold your position. Reinforcements inbound." Moments later, streaks of light filled the sky as human gunships dropped from orbit. They opened fire, raining precise plasma bolts onto the enemy ranks. The ground shook under the barrage. The Korath soldiers roared back, returning fire. Beams of red energy cut through the air, striking walls and vehicles. Aiden's squad fought fiercely. Every shot was measured, every move timed. The Korath were powerful, but the humans were relentless. They used cover, traps, and the terrain itself as weapons. When a Korath walker, a massive 6-legged machine, appeared, Aiden shouted, "EMP ready?" "Ready," replied Mara. She pulled a small sphere from her pouch and hurled it toward the walker. A bright flash erupted, and the giant machine froze mid-step, then collapsed with a crash. "Beautiful throw," Aiden said. "Remind me to get a medal later," she replied, smiling despite the chaos. Hours passed. Smoke covered the city. The Korath retreated little by little, unable to match the humans' unexpected fury. On the bridge of the Resolute, Ilara watched the tactical display as blue markers spread across the map. "The city is secure," Sarah said. Ilara nodded slowly. "Good. Begin evacuation of civilians." Jared turned to her. "Commander, we actually did it." She gave a faint smile. "We're not done yet." "But yes, Jared, we just told the galaxy something they'll never forget." As dawn broke over the shattered skyline, Ilara stepped out of the shelter and looked at the rising sun. For the first time in months, she felt warmth, not from fire, but from hope. Beside her stood Aiden, his armor scratched and burned. "Thank you," she said softly. He looked at her and replied, "Don't thank us yet. We're just getting started." Above them, the Resolute shone in the morning light, a single human ship holding its ground against an empire. And across the stars, the galaxy began to whisper a new story. When the helpless called for aid, it was Deathworlders who came. The sun rose over Varela 9, casting a hazy golden light over the ruins of the capital. Smoke still curled from the burning buildings, and the air smelled of ash and scorched metal. The streets, once filled with laughter and movement, were now silent except for the occasional hum of human machinery or the distant roar of collapsing structures. Yet, amidst the destruction, life stirred. Commander Ilara Kane walked through the makeshift command post set up in a partially standing research tower. Holographic maps floated above tables showing Korath troop movements and human positions. Civilians, mostly Virellans, gathered supplies, food, and water under careful supervision. "Status report," Ilara said, her voice calm yet commanding. Lieutenant Sarah Hale stepped forward. "Korath patrols are regrouping to the north. Our Marines have secured the central district, but there are still pockets of enemy forces near the residential sectors. Civilians are safe, but we need to push forward to evacuate them all." Ilara nodded. "Then that's our next move. Prepare squads for urban clearing. We go street by street if we have to." On the streets, Corporal Aidan Ross led his squad through the debris-strewn avenues. Broken vehicles, shattered crystal panels, and burning rubble made every step dangerous, yet the humans moved with precision, scanning every shadow for signs of the Korath. "Keep your eyes open," Aidan warned. "They might be hiding, waiting for us to slip." One of the soldiers, Private Lila Moreno, spotted movement near a collapsed building. "Korath, 10 meters east side," she shouted. The squad dove for cover as red plasma bolts streaked across the street. Aidan fired first, aiming carefully. One Korath fell, another staggered. The humans advanced steadily, never panicking, their teamwork perfect. Amid the chaos, the Virellans watched in awe. They had never seen creatures fight like this. To them, humans were more than survivors. They were something extraordinary. Meanwhile, Dr. Mara Chen tended to the wounded. Many were humans, some Virellans. The medical tent was small, but she worked tirelessly, moving from patient to patient. She looked up as Aidan's squad returned with several rescued civilians. Among them was Eliara Ven, guiding a small group of children. "You made it," Mara said softly. Eliara nodded, her eyes shining. "Thanks to them," Mara smiled faintly. "They're extraordinary. You'll see. They fight not for conquest, not for glory, but for life." From the air, the UHS Resolute continued to provide support. Its main cannons fired precise shots at Korath reinforcements approaching the city. Gunships swooped down, dropping supplies and covering fire for the ground teams. Commander Ilara stood on the bridge, observing the battle through the viewport. She could see humans running through fire, ducking under collapsing buildings and lifting debris to clear paths for trapped Virellans. Every action was calculated yet instinctive, proof of countless generations of survival on harsh worlds. "Casualties?" she asked. Sarah shook her head. "Minimal so far. The Virellans are cooperating, and our drones are keeping the Korath off balance." Ilara allowed herself a small smile. "Good, keep it that way." Hours passed. The ground battle intensified as the Korath realized they could not easily overpower the humans. Their formations faltered, and the humans pushed forward with determination. In the heart of the city, Aidan's squad entered a partially destroyed plaza where Korath soldiers had taken position. The squad spread out using the ruins for cover. "Charge," Aidan shouted, and the Marines moved in perfect synchronization. Plasma bolts flew, debris exploded, and Korath soldiers fell one by one. Aidan noticed a group of Virellan children trapped behind a fallen beam. Without hesitation, he lifted it and carried them to safety. Mara followed, assisting the youngest. The Virellans watched silently, their fear slowly turning to hope. One young Virellan whispered, "They are like heroes from the stars." At the same time, human engineers worked to restore city infrastructure where possible. They repaired communication lines, powered small shelters, and even started purifying water for the survivors. Humans did not just fight, they built, healed, and restored hope. Ilara's team coordinated with them via comms. "Focus on the north sector. Korath patrols are falling back but may regroup," she instructed. Jared looked at her, concern etched on his face. "Do you think they'll hold?" "They'll do more than hold," she replied. "They'll survive. That's what humans do." As evening approached, the final Korath reinforcements arrived, a small, heavily armed squad. They intended to retake the plaza where humans and Virellans had gathered. Aidan and his squad readied themselves. "They're coming," he warned. The Korath charged, confident and fast. But humans had learned the terrain in hours, and their coordination was flawless. Mara tossed an EMP grenade at the lead Korath walker, disabling it instantly. Soldiers fired from rooftops, corridors, and alleyways. Every human action seemed to multiply their effect, surprising the Korath at every turn. Despite their strength, the Korath faltered. One by one, their soldiers were driven back. Panic began to spread in the enemy ranks. Aiden shouted to his team, "Push them back! Don't give them an inch!" They advanced, clearing the last pockets of resistance. By nightfall, the plaza was secured. Humans and Virelans stood side by side, victorious but weary. In the aftermath, Ilara walked through the streets with a few officers. Fires still burned in some areas, but civilians were safe. The Virelans came out of hiding, their faces showing cautious hope. Eliara Ven approached Ilara, bowing slightly in gratitude. "Commander Kane, you and your people, you saved us all." Ilara shook her head. "We didn't save you. You saved yourselves. We just reminded you how strong you are." Eliara's eyes glistened. "We will never forget this." Ilara smiled faintly. "Good, remember this day. The Korath may return, but now you know what courage looks like. You have it in you." That night the city was quiet. The humans set up temporary shelters and medical tents. Engineers repaired what they could, and soldiers patrolled to ensure safety. On the bridge of the Resolute, Ilara stood looking down at the city. The fire still glowed, but for the first time there was a sense of calm, a fragile peace in the midst of chaos. Jared joined her. "You think the Korath will come back?" "Maybe," Ilara replied, "but we've changed the game. They now know that when the helpless call, humans answer, and they will fight harder than anyone expects." She turned to look at the stars, somewhere far away. More signals might be waiting for someone brave enough to answer them. She whispered, "We're not just fighting for one world. We're showing the galaxy what humanity can do." Below in the city, humans and Virelans worked together to bury the dead, tend the wounded, and secure vital resources. Children, once trembling with fear, now followed humans around, helping carry supplies. One young Virelian tugged on Mara's sleeve. "Will they stay?" Mara smiled gently. "We can't stay forever, but they'll come back if you need them. Humans keep their word." The child nodded slowly, eyes wide with wonder. Hours later, Ilara gathered her officers in the command tent. Holographic maps displayed Korath retreat patterns and safe zones for civilians. "Tomorrow," she said, "we begin evacuation of the remaining survivors. We've bought them time, but we can't leave anyone behind." Sarah nodded. All teams ready for deployment. Aiden and his squad returned, exhausted but smiling. "The city is holding," he reported. "Everyone alive is accounted for. Even the children." Ilara placed a hand on his shoulder. "Good work. Humanity does not leave anyone behind." As night fell completely over Virela 9, the stars shone brighter than before. Smoke from fires mixed with the natural night glow, creating streaks of orange and gold across the sky. Eliara stood on a rooftop beside Aiden, looking up at the stars. "I thought we were done," she whispered. "I thought the Korath would destroy everything." Aiden shook his head. "Not when humans are around. We survive, we fight, and sometimes we help others do the same." Eliara smiled faintly. "You truly are. Different from anyone I've ever known." Aiden grinned. "We're Deathworlders. That's the difference." For the first time in months, Virela 9 had hope. Humans had fought fiercely, protected the helpless, and stood unshakable in the face of impossible odds. The Virelans began to rebuild, inspired by the courage they had witnessed. And far above, the UHS Resolute rested in orbit, ready for the next battle if needed. Humanity had made its mark on this world, not as conquerors but as saviors. The ground war was over for now, but the legend of the Deathworlders had only just begun. The morning sun rose slowly over Virela 9, casting a warm glow over a city scarred by fire but alive with movement. Smoke still rose in small spirals from rubble, but it was thinner now. People were moving, rebuilding, carrying supplies, and helping the wounded. Commander Ilara Kane watched from the bridge of the UHS Resolute, orbiting above the city. The ship had become a symbol of hope for the Virelans, a shining reminder that someone cared enough to come when all seemed lost. "Status report," she said. Lieutenant Sarah Hale tapped the holographic screen. "Korath forces have retreated from the planet. Remaining patrols are minimal. Civilians are being evacuated to safe zones. Our ground teams report over 90% of survivors are accounted for." Ilara allowed herself a small smile. "Good. Prepare the shuttle teams. We begin the evacuation of the remaining population. On the streets, Corporal Aidan Ross and his squad moved carefully among partially collapsed buildings. They were guiding small groups of Virellan children and elders toward temporary shelters set up by the human engineers. One child, clutching a stuffed crystal toy, looked up at Aidan. "Will you stay?" Aidan knelt down, smiling gently. "We can't stay forever, but we'll make sure you're safe. And if you need help again, someone like us will come." The child nodded, eyes wide with trust. Nearby, Dr. Mara Chen helped a group of injured Virellans into the shuttles. Each step was careful. Every human hand offered assistance and reassurance. The Virellans had never experienced help like this before. They had been weak, frightened, and cornered. But now they were learning the strength of courage, solidarity, and hope. Deep in the central plaza, Eliara Ven walked among the survivors, distributing supplies alongside human soldiers. She paused, watching a group of young Virellans play near a repaired fountain. For the first time in months, she felt safe. Aidan approached her. "Tomorrow, the last shuttles will take civilians to the orbital safe zones. Then we leave." Eliara's gaze fell on the human soldiers, tired but proud. "You didn't just save us. You reminded us we are not helpless. That courage exists in everyone if only they see it." Aidan smiled faintly. "We're just Deathworlders doing what we were raised to do." Eliara shook her head. "No, you're more than that. You are heroes, every single one of you." Above the city, the Resolute prepared for departure. Engineers checked systems while crew members finalized reports and logs. The ship had carried humans and supplies, fought against impossible odds, and become a beacon of hope for a distant world. Alara stood on the bridge, looking down at the city. "Jared," she said, "we've done all we can here. It's time to go." Jared nodded. "Do you think they'll survive on their own now?" "They will," Alara replied. "They've seen what courage looks like. That lesson is more powerful than any weapon." Before leaving orbit, Alara activated the repaired Virellan beacon. Its soft glow pierced the smoky skies. She entered a new message, translating it into the Virellan language and then broadcasting it across the galaxy. "To any who can hear us," humanity answered. "We came when you were helpless. We stand for life, courage, and hope. If you ever call for help, we will come. You are not alone." The message pulsed into space, carrying a promise across light years. Below, Eliara watched the beacon glow in the twilight. Tears streamed down her face. "They truly came," she whispered. "They truly came for us." The shuttles descended to pick up the remaining survivors. Families climbed aboard, holding hands, carrying the wounded and the young. The humans helped them with care, guiding them to safety. Each shuttle took them to orbit, where the Resolute and support ships awaited to transfer them to secure habitats. Aidan's squad remained on the surface until the last shuttle left. They cleared streets, lifted debris, and ensured no Virellan was left behind. Finally, Aidan looked around at the city. Once filled with fear and despair, it now breathed with hope. The streets were battered but alive. People waved as the last shuttle ascended, their faces shining with gratitude. As the Resolute left orbit, Alara addressed the crew through the ship's comms. "You have done something extraordinary. You did not fight for power or glory. You fought because life matters. You fought because courage matters. You reminded a world, and perhaps the galaxy, what humanity is capable of. Remember this moment." The crew listened in silence, the weight of their mission settling over them. They had fought battles, faced fear, and now left a world changed forever. In the weeks that followed, news of humanity's actions on Virella 9 spread across the stars. Other species, long cynical about the humans, watched as the Deathworlders rebuilt cities, trained survivors, and sent messages of hope. Humans had proven something simple but profound. When the helpless call, humanity answers. Back on Virella 9, Eliara Ven and the Virellan people began reconstruction. Inspired by the courage and resilience they had witnessed, they organized teams to rebuild homes, purify water, and cultivate gardens in the ruins. Human technology and knowledge guided them, but the lessons were their own. Eliara looked at a small group of children planting seeds in the restored soil. "Your world can thrive," she said softly. "And it will. Because you know how to fight, how to survive, and how to hope." Months later, the Virellan beacon transmitted its first independent signal into deep space. It no longer begged for help, it sent a message of courage, alliance, and gratitude. To any who listened, humanity came. They fought for us, protected us, and showed us hope. When the helpless call, Deathworlders answer. The signal pulsed across star systems, reaching far-off planets, strange civilizations, and isolated colonies. Some listened in awe, some in fear, but all understood one thing: humans would not ignore a plea for help. On the bridge of the Resolute, Commander Ilara Kane gazed at the stars, thinking of Varela 9. She had seen fear, destruction, and despair, and she had seen hope rise from it. Jared stepped beside her. "You think they'll be okay?" "They'll survive," she replied. "We've done more than fight. We've given them courage. That is stronger than any weapon." Sarah Hale joined them, pointing to a distant star. "Commander!" I think the galaxy heard the message too. Other systems are reacting. Ships are moving toward the outer rim. They know what we did. Ilara smiled faintly. "Good, let them watch. Humanity will be remembered, not just for its strength, but for its heart." As the Resolute continued its journey through space, a feeling of quiet pride settled over the crew. They had answered a call for help that no one else would answer. They had risked life and limb, fought impossible odds, and reminded a world, and perhaps the galaxy, what humanity truly was. Somewhere out there, more signals might be drifting through the stars, waiting for someone brave enough to hear them. And humanity would be ready. Ilara looked once more at the distant blue glow of Varela 9. The fires were gone, but the lessons remained. Courage, hope, and the will to protect life had triumphed, she whispered softly, more to herself than anyone else. "Once we called for help, and no one answered. Now we answer for others, and we will always answer." And across the galaxy, civilizations large and small began to understand the truth about the Deathworlders. They survive. They protect. They fight. And when someone calls for help, they come. The legend of humanity had grown, and with it a promise that would echo through the stars for generations to come.